So this video is how to solve quadratics if you're solving by square root. So the first thing you do when you're solving by square root is you have to have x squared by itself. So in this case, x squared is by itself. So let me just go ahead and rewrite this so I have some more room. And then you have to get rid of the square, so you're going to take the square root of both sides. So the square root and the square cancel out, so you're left with just an x. But when you take the square root of 16, since you are placing the square root there, you need to write plus or minus, and then take the square root. So the square root of 16 is 4. So this means your answer can be x equals a positive 4 or x equals a negative 4. And then we can check our work like we did before. So we're going to plug it back into the original. So I have 4 squared has to equal 16. Well, 4 squared is 16, so that's true. Then I'm going to use negative 4. So negative 4 squared has to equal 16. Well, negative 4 squared means negative 4 times negative 4, which is a 16 equal to a 16, so it works. Okay, but not every time when you do this is it's going to be a perfect square. So k squared is by itself equals 32. So again, I need to take the square root of both sides. That leaves the left side just being a k, and the right side is plus or minus whatever the square root of 32 is. Well, this section is most likely going to be on the no calculator section of your end of course test, so you need to know how to break it down. Well, 32 has a perfect square in it, meaning that there's a number times another number that makes 32. Well, 16 times 2 makes 32, which means the square root of 16 times the square root of 2 makes the square root of 32. Well, the 16 is a perfect square. The square root of 16 is 4, and root 2 we can't do anything with, so you put it next to it. So our final answer is plus or minus 4 square root of 2. And you can either keep it as plus and minus, or you can rewrite it as k equals 4 root 2, or k equals a negative 4 root 2. Okay, let's look at number 3. So number 3 has a little bit more going on. First, it's equal to 0. Doesn't have the m squared by itself. So remember, when you are solving by using the square root, you need whatever the squared is by itself. So we have to go ahead and move the 16 to the other side, and it's a negative 16. So we're going to need to add 16 to both sides, which leaves just the 4m squared on the left equal to a 16. But again, we want just the m squared by itself, and it's not. It has a 4 attached to it, so you're going to need to divide by 4 on both sides, leaving you an m squared equal 16 over 4 is a 4. So now I have the m squared by itself, so now it's just like what we did on number 1. I can go ahead and square root both sides to get the squared off the m. But remember, we added the square root, so plus or minus the square root of 4, but we know what the square root of 4 is. M equals plus or minus 2. And again, you can leave it like this, or if you want to split it, m equals 2 and m equals negative 2. So it doesn't matter which way you write it. You can write it that way or that way. Okay, number 4, x squared minus 52. So again, we need to get this x squared by itself. So I'm going to add 52 to both sides. X squared equals 52. Now that the squared is by itself, square root both sides. X equals plus or minus, let's see, 52, does 4 go into 52? Let's see. So turn it on, 52 divided by 4, 13. Okay, so that means the square root of 52 is actually 4 times 13. So the square root of 4 is a 2, and we can't do anything with the 13, so it has to stay inside the radical, inside the house. So plus or minus 2 square root of 13. Okay, number 5. Again, we need that part by itself. So I need to add 17 to both sides. 4a squared equals 9. Again, a squared is not by itself, so you have to divide each side by 4. So a squared equals 9 over 4, which is fine, it's a fraction. Do the same thing like we did before. Square root both sides. A equals, you cannot forget the plus or minus, and the square root of 9 over 4 is the same thing as if I just said the square root of 9 over the square root of 4. So the square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 4 is 2. So we have A equals plus or minus 3 over 2. Our final problem has a little bit more to it because now, number 6, the squared piece is all of that, but that's okay. So I need to get all of that by itself. So just like we did over here, we have to move the 16 to the other side by adding 16. So now I have x minus 3 whole thing squared equal to 16. Okay, now the whole squared piece is by itself. There's nothing out front and nothing behind it. So right here is where I'm going to take the square root of both sides. The square root and the squared goes away. So you're left with x minus 3 equals, the square root of 16 is 4, but it's plus or minus 4. At this point, you're going to need to split your problem into 2 separate smaller problems. So you're going to have x minus 3 equal to the positive 4 and x minus 3 equal to the negative 4. So now they're just one-step equations. X plus 3. So I need to add 3 to both sides, which gives me x equals 4 plus 3 is 7. X minus 3 again, add 3, add 3. Careful on your math here. Negative 4 plus 3 is not negative 7. Negative 4 plus 3 is a negative 1. So my two x's that make this statement true above are x equals 7 and x equals negative 1. Your homework is to do these 3 you try problems.